Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to take a look at another of these Wow World figures, and this is actually the Dilophosaurus. This one is really large, first of all. Like, it has an exceptionally long tail, which I really quite like, but it's also very different than a lot of the others that we've taken a look at. Prior to this, we've seen the T-Rex, the Raptor, and the Carnotaurus, and they were all of like a hard plastic, whereas this one's more of a rubber. So a very different look and a different style for this one. However, the box art still seems to be pretty much the same. We have Wow World here on the front, Dilophosaurus to the right, and then if we turn it around, we have, oh wow, actually look at this. So this is definitely quite different, and we actually have some other species from Wow World that are out there that I was unaware of. So we have the Carnotaurus, the Velociraptor, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Spinosaurus, and Triceratops. And the, I don't know, actually. I'm really interested now that I've turned this around. I don't know if this Dilophosaurus is a totally different style figure from the previous release. Actually, I'm thinking it is because I don't see light and sound or anything. And that was something that was definitely on the previous ones, was the light and sound feature. I think I might like these ones a lot more than the previous Wow World figures. And I'd really like to see more of these figures as far as like what they actually look like. The Raptor looks pretty fun on there. The Carnotaurus looks like the same style Carno from the previous light and sound version, but it looks different. It looks more like the rubber type of a version that we see here. The Triceratops looks very interesting. The Spinosaurus looks super similar to the Spinosaurus, but also with some differences. And the T-Rex as well almost looks like the running green Tyrannosaurus from Papo, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to check that one out. If we ever get some more images or a release of it, I'll have to get a hold of that one as well. But the Dilophosaurus here definitely looks really fun. You can see him right here. He's definitely a very Jurassic Park inspired Dilophosaurus. So let's go ahead, break him out of the package and take a look at him. So here is our Dilophosaurus, and overall it definitely has a very fun look here out of the packaging, but it was already kind of out of the packaging when it was in the packaging, because it wasn't like encased in any type of a plastic window or anything like that. It was just kind of chilling and was held within the box by some ties that we just had to cut off. But it honestly looks much nicer than the previous figures did, if you ask me. I love the fact that there is no light and sound feature to this, and I also like the fact that, again, there are no screw holes or battery compartments that I see. Definitely amps the overall appeal factor up quite a bit of this Wow World figure. So let's go ahead, jump straight to the closer look, and check out this Dilophosaurus. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Dilophosaurus, you can see a lot of really nice detailing to the head sculpt here, and it's all really nicely been brought out with a dry brushing. They seem to have dry brushed like a light gray over top of most of the areas here of the head. You can see the eye is painted with a yellow, given a black pupil. A little bit of sloppy paint on the eye, but it's nothing to really complain about. The teeth are a little sloppily painted. Like, you can see some of the paint has run up onto the gums and stuff in certain areas, but it doesn't look too bad either. Definitely have seen much worse than that in the past. You can see the nostrils are sculpted out right there. The detailing up there on the crests of our Dilophosaurus looks quite nice. We even have that little hook in the jaw right there. So even though the GP version didn't have that, we also have the GP style frill, of course, so that we can give people that really nice Jurassic Park feel. And the actual frill is sculpted out pretty nicely. The paint application isn't my favorite part of the figure for sure in the frill, but it doesn't look bad either. The only area that I could say I don't like so much is like the very abrupt transition between the red to that brown, but at the same time it doesn't look bad and could potentially have been something if a Dilophosaurus had a frill, I should say it that way. If it did, which it did not, but if it did, that could be something that you could have seen, would be that very abrupt transition, and that would just be the way it appears. But overall, I think that if the red had come all the way into the face, it would have looked a little better, but the actual texturing to the frill looks really nice. It definitely has that very beautiful Jurassic Park feel to it, and they've added in kind of a dry brushing here on the edges, just like we saw on the face, of the edges of like this darker gray to highlight those areas of the figure overall. You can see that inside the mouth, the tongue and the inside of the mouth is painted with a very dark, like kind of a purple, like it's a super dark purple, and the tongue is sculpted out pretty nicely. There's even some decent detail within the tongue. We can't see too much going on the inside of the mouth as far as detailing, because again, it's super dark, but The inside of the mouth does sport a nice gloss coat as well, just to add that extra bit of added realism. Even the upper side here of the Dilophosaurus looks quite nice detail-wise. As we move back into the neck region, now being a rubber, sort of a bendable feel, we can turn it a little bit to get a better look at it. You can see some more decent texturing to the neck region. You can also see some ridges pick up here on the back. They've really loaded this figure up with that dry brushing. You can see even the back of the frills sports that dry brushing. And you can see as we move down the course of the body, you can pick up on the throat first of all, which we can kind of get in there to see, but you can see that that dry brushing continues to run the course of the body down here. Very interesting take for a Dilophosaurus with these ridges that run along the back, as well as pretty much littering the entire body with osteoderms. Very interesting overall. Once we get down into the arm sculpt, you can see some nice muscle tone has been applied, and you can also see some decent texturing to the skin. You have some nice scoots down the course of the fingers. The nails are painted with a black, giving a glossy look so that they shine pretty realistically, although they're not perfectly painted. And it doesn't seem like they painted the undersides of the nails. No, they didn't. So that's something WoW World should work on in the future, is painting the undersides of the nails as well. It's not an area that I feel like should be missed, but it's also not an area that absolutely needs the paint. It just looks better if it has it. But at least there is nail paint, so we can't complain too much. As we move up into the body, you can see kind of like the rib cage and stuff. You can see some different variations of like the darker gray and mixing with this lighter brown that we have for the underside of the Dilophosaurus. Some skin wrinkles right here as the leg is pushing into the body, kind of wrinkling the skin. You have some okay muscle tone included in the thigh and calf region. Really nice texturing to the skin right here. I really like that skin detail. You can also see the kneecap is present right there in the front. You also have a nice appearance to the foot sculpt with some more scoots down the toes and some nicely painted nails with that black. Actually, it's a little bit thick. I would say it's run up onto the toes a little bit, but again, at least it's there, and we do have a glossy appearance to that area. And you can also see the dew claws are painted, so that's a huge plus if you ask me. And then moving back up into the tail region, again, has that very osteoderm-like appearance, and then you can also see the ridges. Again, it's been given that really nice dry brushing, and the tail is quite long. It runs out really far, has a very nice curve to it overall. You can see the underside as well sports some decent detail to it. Actually, yes, has some very nice detailing here on the underside of the dinosaur. As we continue to move along the course of the body, you can even see some decent detailing here to the underside of the feet. Nice texturing all throughout the entire underside. You have some nice musculature here in like the chest region of the Dilophosaurus as well. If we look over here, you can again see that it looks pretty much just like we had seen in the previous side. Nicely painted eye. Again, that nice gray dry brushing really making all the detail pop throughout the entire head sculpt. We can see the neck a little better over here because the Dilophosaurus has its head turned to the left, so you can see more going on over here on the neck. There's like some fuzz or something that came with this guy, I guess, right there. We have to get off. But again, detail-wise, it looks pretty nice. Doesn't really have like a scaly type of a look. It's just like a really interesting texturing to the skin that they've given it. A lot of creases and stuff throughout the neck region of the dinosaur, pretty much throughout the entire body. You can see that, especially up here on the top, it has that very similar appearance to like the way that the neck detail looks up here to the top of the body, and that gray dry brushing really makes that detail pop quite sharply throughout the entire figure. And then as we move down here into the arm, you can again see that the arm sculpt looks pretty decent. You have some muscle tone displayed, and then it transitions to the gray here out on the hand. You have the very nicely sculpted out hand. I really quite like the sculpt here on the hand. Very nice scoots down the fingers, and then the nails are painted again with that glossy black. And then moving back here into the body, you can see the rib cage a little bit yet again. Unfortunately, there is like a very awkward and visible seam right here that you can pick up on as far as like a little extra rubber and stuff on the figure, which that is definitely a bit of a downside, but at least it's on the side that you wouldn't be displaying. So this side is the superior side clearly, so that's at least a little bit of a plus. You can see the skin stretching off of the body as the Dilophosaurus is walking along, so this leg is trailing, really stretching that skin, and again, it looks honestly okay. I mean, it's a very interesting take for a Dilophosaurus, but it's a pretty fun-looking figure overall. As we continue to lead through the body, you can see very strong muscles here in the calf region of the dinosaur. Again, the foot sculpt looks pretty decent over here. Nice grayish coloration transitions back to that again, just like we saw on the previous side. You can now see the dew claw over on the opposing side over here, like we had not seen before because we looked at this one, but the nails are painted again with that glossy black coloration. And then we lead back up here into the tail, and the detailing aspect looks pretty much just like it did on the previous side. Very nice curve to the tail, somewhat natural looking curve, I would say, and it's again very flexible. The entire body is bendable and squishy. You can bend it, and it honestly looks pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. It's a very interesting Dilophosaurus, but the fact that it's so huge, in my opinion, is quite appealing to me, and I really do quite like that they've now gone with this kind of rubber feel as opposed to the light and sound version that we had previously as far as these Wow World figures go. As far as a size for our Dilophosaurus goes, if we can position the camera in the correct spot, it definitely has a pretty good length to it. So for a length, you're looking at about 14.5 inches or 37 centimeters. So it's definitely pretty long. And then for a height, the highest point would be the tip of the tail, but we'll go to the tip of the frill back here. You can see it's at about the 6.5 inch range or about the 16.5 centimeter area. And then actually for the height on the tail, it is just shy of 7 inches or about 17.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Wow World Dilophosaurus, and you can definitely see in comparison to these guys that it sports a very large size, overall a very impressive size, and I feel like the further back that you get and really take the figure in, the more impressive it truly is. I feel like it really does look quite appealing overall, something that would be fun for a repaint as well, but again, the extremely impressive size is definitely a very appealing factor to this figure, and hopefully you can see that here in comparison to the figures before you. So this Wow World Dilophosaurus is a pretty fun figure, honestly. It's a shocking release to me because I wasn't prepared for it to be this kind of rubber feel, as the last three that I had taken a look at from the Wow World line were all a plastic, like a hard plastic with a light and sound feature, and now it appears as though these newer figures, they're kind of straying away from the plastic light and sound style figures with more of like a rubber type of a feel to their figures, and I really quite like that. I really think that that was a improvement over the previous releases, as the previous releases did have kind of an ugly battery compartment and a screw hole issue that is 100% corrected with these newer figures, which even on the older ones, the screw holes and the battery compartments weren't that bad in my opinion. I thought they looked, okay even with it, because the figures were so large and so impressive that they still had a pretty appealing appearance to them, but the newer version here that we have of this Dilophosaurus with no screw holes, no battery compartment, definitely a huge plus and a huge step in the right direction as far as these figures go. The sculpt of this Dilophosaurus is really quite fun, obviously sporting a Jurassic Park style look, but also elements of a non-Jurassic Park style Dilophosaurus with like the ridges down the back. We do have the hook in the jaw of the Dilophosaurus, a lot of really nice osteoderms all over the body. Those are some areas of this figure that are not present on a JP style Dilophosaurus, but then you have the frill, which obviously is very Jurassic Park inspired, and the frill itself actually looks quite nice. Pretty much the entire figure has a really nice and very interesting look to it detail-wise, and I am quite a fan of it overall as far as that goes. The paint application is pretty fun, but there's nothing major going on with it. It's just some nice dark tones of like a gray and a lighter brown, and then a nice dry brushing over top. You have a little more coloration included in the frills, so it does have that flashy look like you would expect to see in a frill area of a dinosaur, if dinosaurs did in fact have frills, but other than that, there's not really too much going on other than, the typical paint with like the teeth, the eyes, and the inside of the mouth, and then the fingernails. But as far as the overall body color, it's fairly dark and not anything flashy, but it is pretty nice and naturally applied, and I am still a fan of the overall coloration of the figure. So as a whole, this is a pretty cool Dilophosaurus, an unexpectedly different style figure compared to the previous Wow World figures, but still a really fun figure, and overall, again, in my opinion, an improvement over the previous releases. So if you would like to pick this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on Amazon.com. So make sure you head on over there, purchase yourself this very large Dilophosaurus, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.